right, go to the next video, man, because one of the authors of the of critical race theory, she's actually going to tell us what it was created for. So now she's going to give us the truth.
Hey, y'all know, hold on, pause. Y'all know after that Edomite got done hugging that Jake, he went home, took a shower, and
Oh yeah,
called him nigga right before he got in his car and left.
absolutely.
I think that was probably before COVID-19, so he probably had some what you call that? Some
Hand sanitizer.
Come
some
on now,
bacteria.
dog.
He didn't put it on
He
himself.
sanitized himself.
Damn.
All that before he got in his car.
Racist. You racist.
Racist.
Play on. Did you?
Is not so much a thing, it's a way of looking at a thing. It's a way of looking at race. It's a way of looking
Take it back
at
just
why
a second
after
so we know what they're talking
looking
about again.
critical race theory is not so much a thing, it's a way of looking at a thing. It's a way of looking at race. It's a way of looking at why, after so many decades, centuries actually, since the emancipation, we have patterns of inequality that are enduring, they are stubborn. And the point of critical race theory originally was to think and talk about how law contributed to the subordinate status of African Americans, of indigenous people, and of an entire group of people who were coming to our shores from Asia. And the point was, quite frankly, to understand the problem in order to intervene in it, to understand why the greatest hopes for our republic were not being realized, even though these hopes were encoded in law. So critical race theory just inherits the beliefs and the hopes of Frederick Douglass, of Martin Luther King, who basically want the law to do for the freed people what the law did for enslavers. And we picked that up in the 70s and 80s after the civil rights movement to say, okay, so now we've had this big civil rights movement. We have all these laws in the books, but things really aren't looking as different as they should if we are really the society that we say we are. So we put about the task of understanding how law wasn't just the neutral referee. Law wasn't always on our side. In fact, law was less on our side than for on our side. And we wanted to tell these stories in order to do better with the promises that are embedded in the Constitution. That's what's in critical race theory.
So is critical race theory, is there a K through 12 curriculum that right now is being taught?
Listen up.
I know it's a dumb
attention.
question, but is there a K through 12 curriculum on critical race theory that's being taught in schools around this country?
Well, look, Joy, if it was news to most Americans that critical race theory was in K through 12, it was news to me too. I'm one of the co-authors of one of the few books on critical race theory.
So, critical race theory, how they're using it today, how they're using it in the media, they're saying critical race theory, we got to get rid of it. And then when people that are informed on what critical race theory is, they start to ask them questions. So what is it? You know, what's the problem with it? Oh, it's making our kids feel bad. But the people that are saying that obviously are Edomites.
Right.
And just like the last, it's teaching them to divide people by race and color. Like, so the curriculum kind of already does that whenever you're talking about the colonists coming over here, conquering. You know, you talk about the Indians, you start talking about Issachar, but you're talking about them in a negative light. The curriculum already does that. What this is talking about, what the sister's saying, this is just at its foundation is asking, why is this still happening today, even though we've had so on and so forth, civil rights laws, you know, amendments, so on and so forth come into place. Why is this still happening? Esau is just taking it and say, you know what? This is just about anti-racism. You just making little Timmy feel bad. You making my son feel bad. You're saying that he's a natural-born racist. Who's doing that?
Right. And so one thing also, if the person that wins the war, they can control the narrative. Right. You know what I mean? So they can be able to teach whatever they want, and it's nothing we can really do about it, but have discussions about it. But they can actually put plans in place like what they're doing now.
They can pass laws.
Exactly, officer. Exactly.
Now, something that she said, the last part that she said was that it was news to her as far as it being a K through 12 curriculum. Is critical race theory a K through 12, is it a curriculum?
No.
Mm.
It would it would be amazing if I went into a classroom that I go to and I said, okay, kids, today we're going to talk about the plight of Black America when it comes to housing, and like we were just talking about the mortgages and getting loans. Kids gonna look at me like I'm stupid. They're gonna be like, what are you talking about? They don't, in the education system today, is speaking about public schooling, they don't teach you to teach the kids as far as how to be thinkers, how to really evaluate what's going on. They just say, hey, okay, listen, this is what we have at the end of the school year. There's a test. On this test, they're gonna want to know what's the main idea, what's inferencing, how to do inferencing, you know, how to find your theme of the story. We just need to teach these things because that's what's on the test, and that test score on that kid's gonna get or that school's gonna get determines what grade our school gets. So they're not really, we not up in school talking about nothing deep. We ain't up in school talking about, you know, critical race theory. Right. We up in school probably spending 40 minutes at that, if you got that, 40 minutes reading a part of a story just so I can teach you how to find the main idea and make sure, hey, you know how to find the main idea? What's the main idea up in here? The kid's gonna be like, one of the kids over there doing TikTok dances. It's no real learning going on in the classroom. They're just learning how to take the test.
So why are these Edomites? Why are they having making a big deal out of this? If it's not in the school system, they don't want it in the school system,
how I'm looking at it is,
I'm sorry, and so we do have brothers that are scholars in IUIC Dallas. Trust them,
praise to the Lord.
We got doctors, we got lawyers,
that's
we
right.
got teachers, we got everything. So trust me when we tell y'all, we're giving y'all the straight facts. We're not giving y'all our theory. We're not giving y'all nothing more than the facts from the inside. So go ahead.
So when I was in my freshman year of college, this was like orientation where everybody went to the little theater or whatever case is, and they were speaking to us. They had a key speaker, and for what random reason, I remember him just randomly saying, you know what, in 5 years, this is 2011 when he said this, he was like, 5 years, Hispanics are going to be the majority of Texas. And I remember back then, I was like, he just randomly say that. I'm like, what that got to do with anything? But now you see, with Hispanics, blacks and Hispanics, we are the majority of Texas. If you come down here to Texas, that's what you're going to see, blacks and Hispanics. Majority of them, they speak in Spanish. A lot of Hispanics out here don't even speak English. They just speak in Spanish, and they live in a jolly old life still being able to survive out here because there's a lot of Hispanics supporting Hispanics out here. But anyways, with that being the case, that affects the school system. There are a lot, I'll say Garland or Dallas ISD, 60, 70% minorities, meaning blacks and Hispanics. That's what makes up Dallas ISD. Right. So with that, a lot of parents, people that educate themselves, they do think, they're like, hey, what's going on with this curriculum? Why are y'all still teaching that Christopher Columbus was a discoverer? Right. Y'all need to teach about the other side of the story, that he came over, he conquered some people, that Andrew Jackson, he wasn't a great man, he slaughtered a bunch of the Native Indians. Right. Those kind of conversations have been had and are being had. But the pushback now is that from Esau, they're saying, well, that's making my kid feel uncomfortable now. So you can't teach that because that's racist. So they just didn't flip the script on us. It wasn't racist when Andrew Jackson conquered the Gad, but now it's racist because you're pointing out the fact that that's an evil act that he did. Damn. In the bill itself, they say you can't, in the bill itself, that got approved in Texas, is that you cannot talk about current events. Unless you could talk about both sides without being partial.
Wow.
How is that possible?
Wow.
But generally speaking, do y'all have enough time in a year? Because I'm thinking about just generally speaking as a teacher. Do y'all really have enough time in a year to cover everything that happens on top of teaching to a test, on top of?
Listen, they got what's called a pacing guide. They want you to cover a certain amount of things because on X date, X date, we got a test. They got a BOY, beginning of the year test, MOY, middle of the year, end of the year test. We got a pacing guide to make sure in that beginning of the year test, this is what we're going to have on the test. you need to make sure within those 2 hours that you got with them kids, you divide up maybe 50 minutes for this, for reading. They scratch, you know, in my grade level, they scratch writing. They like combine writing with reading. Because we need to, because this grade level only test the reading. They don't test writing.
Damn.
So they said just scratch the reading part, the writing part, combine it with reading. And then they say their social studies stuff, and this is well known amongst teachers, they don't give a damn about no social studies. They're not trying to talk about no history. They don't care about no money. They don't want to teach you how to save money. They don't want to teach you none of that stuff. They say, hey, listen, teach them how to pass this test and make sure that they can just move on to the next grade level and we can get this funding.
Hey, real quick. Hey, AV, remember where we're at on this video because we want to come back to it. We want to come back to it. There's still a little bit to see. But remember where we're at on here. Go out of this. I want you to go down and pull up that quote by, was it Rockefeller?
Rockefeller.
Yeah, by Rockefeller.
Esau, Idumean, Edom.
That's him.
Rockefeller himself.
Oh, the devil?
Yes.
That's what you're talking
That's-
about. Oh, okay.
yeah,
The devil.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The devil, the
You
Bible.
want to make sure we
speaks
was talking about the same person.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep, that would be him. He's the pappy.
Yeah, and I read just looking at some of this stuff when we was finding the quote.
Yeah, right. But yeah,
They said
right there.
Rockefeller, the one that made this quote. They said this dude is known as the richest man in modern history.
Mhm.
So this is wealthy. Rockefeller, he had money, and you'll see in one of the quotes what they they allude to just the amount of money and resources that they had at their fingertips.
Yeah. Well, remember he said that. He said he didn't care about what the politics of the nation give him control over the nation's finances or whatever. That's all he was worried about.
So he says, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers.
Wow.
So now why is that important?
So for John D. Rockefeller, if you can go to the other one, John D. Rockefeller, go to the other link where it talks about the General Board of Education. What we're seeing today, they're not arguing like one of the
Philosophy.
They're not arguing don't teach history because they want you to know that you was conquered. They want you to know that they're the founding fathers. They want you to know all the good stuff about Esau, but they don't want you to think in your correct mind, okay, I'm not the same people as John F. Kennedy, as Abraham Lincoln, as Andrew Jackson. I'm Native Indian. I am a Mexican. I'm the people that got conquered. They don't want you thinking, why were we conquered? How does that affect me today? How do I get out of this situation? They don't want you just thinking whatsoever in a light to where you can even come up out of this situation. They just don't want you thinking whatsoever.
They don't want us to be critical thinkers.
Right.
And it's crazy because in the school system they have you got to make sure you're asking these critical questions. That one word that a coach told me, that's what they call them, coaches. She said, there's one word that really gets the kids going. Why? She was like, make sure you implement that up in your teaching, and that's just gonna get it. The sister that came up with the 1619 project, even the people that's talking about critical race theory, their foundation is they just want to know, why is this still happening?
Mm-hmm.
So they're just trying to practice and they're just trying to figure out what's going on. But Esau, like, you looking, I don't need you looking over there. I need you to just focus over here. I need you to be a worker. We got jobs that we need you to fulfill.
Right.
We don't need you thinking. We don't need you coming out with no great stories. No, like what it says here. Let me go to it.
Hey, let me pull a script, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To explain why. Deuteronomy 32:7. Why we need this history.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations.
So the Bible tells us, this shows how America's philosophy is not built on biblical principles. Right? Like they stole a lot of things. Judicial system comes from the system of the Jews, right? So they used a lot of our laws and a lot of our standards, but they completely perverted them. They made them perverse, in the way that they used them. Because the Bible says the reason that there should be critical race theory is because we should remember the days of old and consider the years of many generations. Go ahead.
Ask thy father.
How do we ask thy fathers? We look back into the history of what happened to our people. What happened to us? Why did it happen? And how do we avoid it happening again so we don't stay in the same place.
Right.
Go ahead.
And he will show thee thy elders, and they will tell thee.
So we'll know how we're supposed to function and what happened to us when we read Deuteronomy chapter 28 and see that the Bible said that our ancestors went through it, but in verse 46 that these curses would be upon your seed forever. So now we can go into the book and look at it and say, what happened? What is the theory or the understanding of our race? Oh, we went into slavery because we went against the laws of God. We broke God's laws. So because we broke God's laws, this happened, that happened, that happened. And then what do? We remember who we are. And we begin to work ourselves back into a position away from servitude into rulership.
Right.
That's why we need critical race theory.
Right.
Based on the truth, of course. Based on the truth.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.